everyone, and welcome to another edition of Let's Talk ETC. I have Kevin Lord and Anthony or Pascal Lusardi with me, and they're going to give us the latest ETC news. So welcome to both of you.
Hey, Christian.
All right, so...
Always good to be back.
Yeah, always good to hear from you guys. So I know Kevin has done a lot of research and prepared an outline, a list of topics to discuss. So why don't you take the driver's seat?
Okay, so why don't we go ahead and start off with the recent hard fork, Atlantis. So back at block 8.772 million, Atlantis was implemented. I believe it was Mining Pool Hub that mined the first block. And since then, things have been going pretty smoothly. I don't recall the exact percent of nodes that have switched over, but there's over, the majority is in the Atlantis network right now. So everything looks like it's going really well. Now comes the next batch of upgrades. So more fun is yet to come.
Yeah, so I got the reminders about upgrading my parity ETC nodes, so that was really good, whoever took care of that on Discord. And so, yeah, it went well for me, from my end. I'm sure other people too.
Yeah, it took a lot of coordination too, with all the network participants and different stakeholders in the group. I mean, reaching the consensus on the date, for example, took a lot of discussion, a lot of back and forth. So this was by no means no small accomplishment.
Now, do you want to say something about, is there future hard forks coming in soon that we need to know about?
Yeah, Anthony, do you know what the next one's called?
I forget the name. Is it the Atslim one? But it's I don't think there's no hard forks that are ever coming soon because they require a substantial amount of thought and preparation. So I don't think there's anything that's coming immediately.
Okay, but so eventually there'll be another one. Okay, gotcha.
Potentially, provided that everybody agrees to do it.
Right.
Yeah, it looks like there's a few planned ones for ETC coming up. I'm pretty sure ETC Labs Core is sort of taking the lead on that. But yeah, we can't make this stuff possible without the volunteer contributors. Yeah, without them, there's no way this would be decentralized and proper. But yeah, we have, there's two more, I believe, coming up, Agartha and Aslan. Yeah, so those are two pretty important upgrades that are coming up at some point. I believe, do you know if they're in the ECIP process?
I'm not sure. I haven't.
If they are, people can go ahead and look at them.
They're probably there, but I haven't.
Yeah, we could always. Yeah, we could link that up. Yeah, so there was that. That was a really big success. Yeah, I just want to knock on wood there. Don't want to jinx anything. But yeah, that would segue us into the next series of updates, which would be Aslan and the other one I mentioned. So yeah, Ethereum Classic is definitely chugging along. So why don't we go ahead and talk about the ETC Summit coming up? That's going to be next week. You guys excited?
Yeah. Well, the following. I guess it's but yeah. I'm excited.
The one after that.
To watch the videos, so I'm not going.
The live stream or the replay. Yeah. So yeah, that's going to be really exciting. So we actually have Charles Hoskinson coming back to give a keynote speech, which was pretty exciting. It's going to be really interesting. I'm going to be giving a talk up there about community management, how projects that aren't Bitcoin can be more successful with community management. Because if you think about it, does Bitcoin have any community managers?
Yeah, I don't know.
No.
No, but actually, not to put you on the spot, but do you want to say anything about your role in the last several months, like helping out ETC as a community manager? Like, what's your kind of is a smooth operation? Is
What
it
do I do?
difficult for? Yeah, and what are some of the pain points and like
Sure.
talk about that for a little bit. That's kind of interesting to people.
So definitely, it's hard to put a label on what I do because I do so many different things. So, for example, monitoring the different channels that we have. So that's something Anthony does. One of my points in my talk is that a lot of us are community managers. We just don't have that label. We don't have that official title because we essentially do the same functions, which is, answer questions that people have, moderate, spam or anything going on in the channels that we use. Obviously, posting content, keeping people up to date, dealing with a lot of complaints. Basically like the customer service center of the ETC ecosystem. People will come to you when they have questions about where do I go to get started, how can I volunteer, things like that.
Imagine also, like you were saying about the Atlantis hard fork and how part of the difficulty was agreeing on a date. Is part of it like helping facilitate communication between all the different participants involved?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's definitely a communications gap between the East and the West. So that's something we've been working on to, minimize. But aside from that, I would say communication or consistent communication is one of the things that we struggle at. So for example, with that hard fork, going back and forth was a bit of a challenge because of obviously the time differences. And we got through it, but it did take some time.
Yeah, time differences and people not understanding kind of how the process that they were trying to undertake works.
Exactly.
People might not know or appreciate all the things that are happening behind the scenes to keep everything functioning smoothly.
Yeah, even people actually
to keep everything decentralized.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Like we don't want ETC to become, like an EOS, where they have top-down governance, and they get to decide whatever they want to do without having a rough consensus. So, yeah, I definitely agree with Anthony there.
All right. So who else do you want to highlight? So we talked about Charles Hoskinson, and he's a great speaker. So looking forward to that one. But who else is you looking forward to?
So one of the panels I'm really looking forward to is the mining panel. That one's going to be with a fellow from Bitmain, Lindsay. We got Alex Sankoff, who is behind the SHA3 development, the Aster testnet, and then we got Henry Kwan from Epic. They're a semiconductor manufacturer, and they're going to be touching on mining, proof of work. Let's see if I could find anything more in detail. But yeah, these panels are always very, very interesting, and they offer a lot of insight into what exactly is going on with the mining community.
Yeah.
So just to remind people, so the SHA3 testnet is regarding Alex's mission to try to change the hashing algorithm to Ketchup 256, a variant of SHA3.
Yeah, basically.
Yes, or Ketchup 256, as it's also known.
Oh, sorry, you're right. Ketchup, that's right.
No, Ketchup.
Okay.
Ketchup.
It's a joke. Yeah, but no, that was one of the developments that came out of the 51% attack in January. Was a possible mining algorithm change, which in reality really would not decrease the risk of that same type of attack. Yeah.
Well, To be fair, in the long run, being on an algorithm like SHA3 would decrease the risk because you'd lead to A6, and then you would, if you get the majority, if you are the majority network that's running SHA3, which ETC would end up being, then you wouldn't actually you would have reduced risk because miners aren't going to want to risk losing the value of their hardware by repeatedly 51% attacking the chain until their hardware is worthless. So there's some game theory there that at least seems to play out in Bitcoin and potentially others that says, you do reduce the incentive for 51% attacks to happen, and you might even reduce the ability for people to access that hardware to conduct temporary attacks. But yeah, in general, I would say that I disagree with actually changing the hashing algorithm on ETC because it's a thing that's already set, and if it's working fine, which it still is, then it shouldn't change. It's not the best algorithm. ETH kind of sucks, and resisting A6 is kind of just a bad idea, but it's taken people a long time to kind of understand that and learn that as time goes on.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. Yeah, over a long enough time period, this could definitely be beneficial.
If I was designing ETC from the ground up, yeah, there would be tons of things I would change. But if we have to use the network as is, then there's a lot less that we should change.
Totally agree.
Now, also, ETC Labs, do they have going to make an appearance or give a presentation?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, they're going to be giving a presentation on how to take over a GitHub organization.
A 101 on that.
Yeah, I think it's based off of previous work by Igor.
Yeah, they're basically just going to be covering their tooling and what they've been up to. They're going to be talking about the EVM, LLVM project, and a lot of what they're doing, what the core team is doing. I do believe Terry is giving a talk about the accelerator and what they're doing there. But aside from that, what it looks like from the agenda is that they're going to be focusing on the technical aspects of what they're building and what they're bringing to ETC.
Okay. So what else are you looking forward to, Kevin?
I'm looking forward to being in Vancouver in general, man. And seeing everybody that you see online, but you don't see face to face. That's what's always good about these summits is you actually see the person face to face. And a lot of the times, some of the people you might have, tips with online or somebody you may not like, you end up being friends with them once you get to meet them, once you get to know them. So I think this might be a really great place to sort of break the tension maybe between parties or sort of ease that tension or, talk things out and, get things more cohesive.
Sounds good. I think that's true.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I'm looking forward, though, to that community panel. You got quite a few characters up there with you, Kevin. It'll be a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
So
Chelsea's going to bust a rap out.
So what is the topic of the panel?
So it's just community management.
Okay. Oh, this is part of your, I see. It's going to be a community panel then about community management. Okay.
Yeah, so I think we're just going to be touching on, what does a community management, we're just going to be touching on community management, essentially.
Okay.
Yeah, not too much detail there.
Oh, I just noticed ETC Summit actually got funding from the Ethereum Foundation.
Yeah, it looks like they sponsored.
Saw that on the website. That's great.
Yeah, I just noticed that. Just noticed that. But yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that mining summit. Back in 2017, we had Jihan Wu from Bitmain. He was going to give a speech, and unfortunately, he wasn't able to make it due to, I think, an illness the next day. But anyways, we have Bitmain coming back this time, and I'm very curious to see what they have to say. Maybe, yeah, I'm really curious to hear what they have to say.
They are like the premier mining hardware manufacturer.
Exactly. Well,
Yeah, for the
one
time
of them.
being, they are. They've definitely lost a lot of their competitive edge through a lot of bad decisions. But yeah, hopefully it's I think they're kind of under new leadership now, so it should be better.
Okay. And then Kevin, there was something about another mining competitor that was going to give a talk or something. Lindsay? You want to say something about that?
Yeah, Lindsay.
Lindsay, okay.
Yeah, so Lindsay was at the Korean summit, the Korea summit in South Korea. So they were speaking about what they're building, which was an ASIC for ETH. So they've been developing that over the past, year and some odd months, and they're going to be given a speech about it. And looks like they're on. Well, they released a piece the other day saying that they're on track and for production. So to expect production, I think around November. And I honestly can't wait to get my hands on some of these. So that's going to be really interesting. I'm really interested to hear in what these two big mining companies have to say at the ETC Summit. Yeah, that's the other competitor. Their machine is much more efficient than the Bitmain E3. So it's going to be really interesting to see if other competitors join in and start creating machinery for mining, but that is yet to be seen.
Right. And then was there any other panels or speakers that you wanted to highlight?
I mean, there's a lot to cover. One of them I do want to talk about is Donald. So Donald finally agreed to come back and speak, and he's going to be giving a talk about the vision, the opportunities, and the values of Ethereum Classic. And it's a very no-nonsense talk. He's actually published these articles, I think, a few weeks ago, but it cuts straight to the chase, tells you exactly why ETC is valuable, why other chains don't necessarily have the same properties, and a lot of other things. And I'm really glad he decided to come back, and I'm looking forward to his speech.
Yeah, good. All right. Now, do you want to say something about the discussion that Bob had with somebody over Twitter also?
Some guy.
Peter. Oh yeah, some guy. So yeah, I mean, basically it was a back and forth with Peter. I don't want to butcher his last name. But yeah, I mean, the title of the article was Ethereum Developer accuses Ethereum Classic of pushing an agenda, which I don't see how that's a negative thing. But there was a back and forth.
Well, it's not Peter's agenda, so it's an agenda that Peter doesn't like. You can't only have one agenda. You can't have two. That's not fair.
Yeah, so I mean, it's him going back and forth with Bob and talking about Ethereum Classic, riding on Ethereum's coattails, and the same sort of narrative that we were dealing with about 3 years ago. Doesn't look like he's moved on from that. He's one of the few outliers in the Ethereum community that I can see that has actually moved on. But yeah, it's basically just a back and forth. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean,
things about Peter though is that he's core maintainer of Geth, so it creates issues. I don't know what happened, but I do know roughly that some ETC devs have basically reached out and said, can we work together? Can we get some ETC stuff into Geth? We can submit patches and enable Geth to work on a bunch of other Ethereum-based networks and maybe find some other potential benefits there where Geth might be able to get some additional features or some additional help, and I think Peter doesn't want that at all. And so yeah, it's a really interesting situation because Geth actually runs on ETC perfectly fine, and it's just a small patch called multi-Geth maintained by Wei Tang. And yeah, it's kind of frustrating that Peter's falling back to these 3-year-old conspiracy theories rather than just and it's really frustrating that when we have developers that are actually trying to help and trying to work together, that to then have him turn around and say all they do is steal and copy code when they'd been contacted for literally the exact opposite reason. They wanted to share code. So yeah, frustrating.
Oh, that's an interesting point. Yeah. So I'll try to butcher his last name, Peters Zilagi, and it's interesting that he doesn't speak for all of ETH because, as you said, the foundation is amicable towards working with ETC, and they've even funded ETC in some capacity, and then. So there's that he doesn't speak for the majority of people or everyone.
Not at all.
Okay.
And yeah,
and anybody that is still trying to figure out the contribution that ETC could make, that's a great reason to go to the summit, right? That's what Donald is going to be elaborating on, and all the great talks. It's all going to be about addressing that question.
Yeah, and he just has a very strong position within Ethereum as the core Geth maintainer. That's the majority client on the Ethereum network. He's got a position that he can more effectively defend than most, even if his reasoning is kind of illogical or just silly and spiteful.
Okay. But I'm glad that things have cooled off since 3 years ago. So
for most people, yeah.
Yeah, so
some
good.
People know.
All right. So yeah, so Kevin, so we've highlighted, we've touched upon the summit. You've talked about the Atlantis hard fork, and also to stay tuned for upcoming ones, not necessarily in the near term or right away, but eventually. And anything else that we missed or anything else that you want to mention before we close, Kevin?
I just want to let people know that the summit's going to be happening October 3rd and 4th. That's going to be the following week over at the Pinnacle Hotel in downtown Vancouver. That hotel is fully booked. But I believe the hotel right across the street, the Marriott Pinnacle, they are available, as well as a bunch of other hotels. The summit is completely free, so I really hope everybody who's available can come over and join us.
All right, sounds good. So everyone pay attention to the ETC summit coming up. So so thank you, as always, Anthony, Pascal, and Kevin, for your update, and best luck to you in Vancouver until we meet next time.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Christian.
All right, bye-bye.
See you guys.